Hey, all my IFG friends, this is Steve. I want to say, if you like movies like I do, we've started a new podcast called Happy Hour Flicks. You can find it anywhere podcasts are found. It's all about nostalgic movies that we love, and we bring on special guests each episode, and we also have specialty cocktails made for each one, too. So it really is an hour of a good time talking about movies that we love, like Gremlins, Seven, Free Willy. We talk about The Last Starfighter also. I mean, we kind of run the gamut across all the decades and really have a great time. So wanted to invite you to come over and join us. That's Happy Hour Flicks, anywhere podcasts are found.
Hello and welcome back to the Independent Filmmakers Guide.
Hello and welcome back, James. It is great to see your face. It's good to get your voice in this part of the show today because you are actually not in the show later.
Not in every show, man. Can't be in them all.
Hey, but at least we get you in here for the introduction. Get the soothing sounds of the Allardyce.
I'll be there for the outro as well.
Oh, I see. That's nice. Well, that's nice of you to support, on both sides. Episode I did today, James, I actually did several months ago about intimacy coordination with Brooke Haney. She's an intimacy coordinator, and Jen Harris, who's a director of a short film that called She's Clean, that at the time they just finished production on. Now they're farther along. I believe they've even gone to some festivals and such. But just now getting around to releasing the episode. And it's about intimacy coordination. Do you know anything about this, James?
Intimacy coordinator, really, really great advocate and liaison between actors and production.
Basically, same way a stunt coordinator comes in and makes things safe for people doing, potentially hazardous things on set. This is just lumping that in and including more emotional and physical nature in such as nudity or kissing or interactions in that sort of fashion.
Right. I mean, a classic example, everyone wants to know if you have a kissing scene or a sex scene in a movie, that's the first thing that comes to people's mind when they think of an intimacy coordinator, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing to really emphasize, I took away from talking to them, is it's not as much like a here, put a flashlight on this. It's not the creative police. I think Brooke even says something like that. That's not the mission. That's not the goal. The goal is to enable creativity in a safe environment in a way that you can tell more of the story in a non-destructive way.
And I also know that, those are the examples, the first thing that comes to people's mind, kissing scenes, stuff like that, but it's not just for a kissing scene or a nudity scene. There's a lot of other cases involved.
Yeah,
right?
Other cases and other people than you just think about. Brooke talks a lot about this episode, about the other people you aren't thinking of that aren't necessarily the people that are naked. Maybe it's the person that's filming them that would feel uncomfortable, and you need to include everybody. This is your job. And not, this is not supposed to be voyeuristic.
Well, I know it's always been important for filmmaking, but I also know that I believe it's more and more becoming a department and a position on set, and I think that SAG is actually adding it, as an official
needed category.
Yeah, needed category. So,
well, conveniently, we talk about that too.
Okay, great. I'd love to. I'm sure our listeners would love to hear about that too.
This is the Independent
Filmmakers Guide
from Framework Productions.
Framework Productions.
So, Brooke, Jen, it's wonderful to get to meet you guys. And, I've known you a little bit before, Brooke, but thanks for joining me here today. I'm very excited to get to talk about your collaboration for your short film, She's Clean, that you wrote, directed, and starred in, Jen. But I'm also very excited because this is something I am really passionate about, as far as I'm learning. I think this is a very good direction to have this thing called an intimacy coordinator. And I have my thoughts on why it's good for many reasons from a directorial standpoint. But Brooke,
as an intimacy coordinator, would you mind just telling me what the hell it is and why, how you got into it?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks for having us on. I'm really excited for this conversation. An intimacy coordinator is someone who does a variety of things on set, everything from establishing boundaries, they can choreograph moments of intimacy with desexualized language, help with closing set, for example, with scenes of hyperexposure, work if it's a scene with like really heavy material. I have closure practices that can help an actor let go of something if they need assistance with that.
Like in what way? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so like a really simple one that Intimacy Directors International came up with originally, which is now a lot of those people are intimacy directors and coordinators, is called clap in, clap out. So like the very simple thing is like you clap in, and now I'm my character, and clap out, now I'm me again. A slightly more in-depth one that Theatrical Intimacy Education created is called de-rolling, where it's like you say, as my character, I did these things. But as the actor, I followed the choreography. So you delineate the difference between the two. And then I've actually never used this on a film, but I work a lot in the theater. I have a practice that takes as long as 20 minutes that I call the actor warm down, that I created in partnership with some students and alumni at Marymount Manhattan College. That is a physical, a meditative, and a vocal release of the character. That is for when an actor is in flight or like actually in fight or flight or freeze. It physiologically takes 20 minutes if you are in that moment and your adrenaline is pumping to let it go. So those are some options for closure practice. They don't honestly come up so much on set, but they come up in the theater a lot. I imagine they could come up on set.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's great, honestly, that those kind of process. I feel like that is a more theatrical process just from the background in theater. I mean, but it for me, the reason I'm working, I really enjoy, working with the intimacy coordinator is I've directed a few promos and some things here and there that it can be as light as even kissing. But I think from the outside world, when you stand and kind of look at a film, you're like, oh, I get to kiss Hugh Jackman. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's about to be so exciting. It's not actually. Whenever you're on set, it's extremely awkward. It's like having a room full of people standing here watching you and to do an authentic performance, which is, again, choreographed by someone else, somebody telling you what to do. It can be very, very awkward, vulnerable, and, all kinds of it's a really awkward situation. So I like the ability to be able to separate that same way you do a stunt. Say, hey, here's what I really want to do. I want you to jump off this building and land on this big pad, right? So now the stunt coordinator goes and tells them how they do that safely. We work and we tweak it and whatever. I think it's exactly the same here, rather than it being like, great, you know what I mean? This is where you rip his shirt off and, throw him against the wall. It's like, it needs to be like this and want these moments to feel like this and the scene's about this, and let somebody else help communicate so you don't put an actor in an unfortunate situation. So to build upon that, and sorry, like Jen, you just wrote, directed, and starred in a film that had a lot of intimacy in it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, if I may, on this point, like when it's asked, like why, when it's sort of introducing intimacy coordination into theater and film, and like why it's necessary. Again, we wouldn't ask an actor to understand how to wield a weapon or how to throw a punch. It's insane that we would expect an actor how to plant a kiss in a certain moment and know how to touch someone. In some way, shape, or form that either the script and the director, the plot of the film or the plot of the play needs to press forward, that we would just expect them to like go, like intimacy is not black and white, just like holding a gun or throwing a punch is not black and white. There are very specific reasons that we do something, or dancing or moving, any type of choreography. So that we haven't put professionalism and boundaries and left it open. I think a lot of people think too that it's a closing sort of a thing, that like we're putting it in a box, where it's actually quite freeing to have things in place. It can actually free up, and then and also I just sort of thought too, when you were talking about it, like in for younger people too, younger actors, like, right, where this is something that's like that's when Brooke was talking about the closure, like closing out something. It's also like, well, why is that needed? I mean, intimacy is such a heightened thing. And, you're asking someone, like, we're acting, of course, we're acting, we're pretending. And you've just been physical in front of a bunch of people. Like, it's especially for younger actors. I mean, I'm not just saying them, but like, to have something like that, Brooke, I think is absolutely wonderful, both in theater and film. And in film too, like in theater, a lot of times you are handled a little better. You have more time, you have autonomy, you get the space, you get the stage. In film, there's 40 people around you pointing cameras, ready, set, go. Okay, bye, moving on. There's no time to sort of like wind down in a sense that often we have in theater. So I think that that's great, Brooke.
100%. Yeah, like in a rehearsal process, you get like 4 weeks where you can build up to the. Now you do the scene probably 6 or 7 times before you hit like dress and stuff, but you get a time to develop a relationship, a rapport with a person. Sometimes on a film set, somebody's going to walk in. This is their one day. You know what I mean? Like, you're the person that walks in. You know what I mean? Gets naked and jumps in the pool.
On our film, it's your 3 hours from entering and exiting, but like totally, and also just space. Like a film set is like, where's your space, like your physical space? And Brooke and I can talk about that too, but I sidebar because I wanted to talk about all that, but you had a question.
No, that's
Steven,
fine.
You were bringing me right into the film, and I was
exactly. Well, I just wanted to know, like, what is, so she's clean. What is the impetus of it? Tell me some of the, specifically why you got an intimacy coordinator involved and how that helped you achieve what you wanted to do as an artist.
Sure. The film that I wrote is about intimacy. It's about a middle-aged woman who takes showers with the men she slept with to discover if true intimacy is worth it or even available to her still. Not just because she's old, but because of what she knows and what she's experienced in life. So like, does she even want it anymore, knowing what she has been through? So not just because she's old, like we don't really get into that. That's not the point of it.
That's the beauty of short films versus like a feature film. Feature films often are kind of a long, that not many, there are some obviously, but most of them have a little more cohesion to them. But like an art, I feel like short films and plays are kind of similar, where they usually examine something very specific.
Yeah, and I love how short format like leaves it open to the audience to sort of deliberate and sort of think through what they would envision or would like to envision for the characters beyond what they've just seen, the scope of the film. And I really like that. It's like it leads, short films lead to a lot more discussion for me in terms of story, whereas like a larger film, I like to talk into context. You're like, wow, how they did this, that, and the other. Where like a short film, when you're done with a short film, I feel like the conversations are always around the story and what like it could be beyond what the scope of what we saw, because it's they're not normally closed down. But so the film is 16 pages and it's 23 scenes, 23 short scenes, and there's 13 men and 1 woman. And it's all set in a bathroom. And just alone, I knew like there is a lot of intimacy, kissing. There's 2 moments of simulated sex, but mostly it's intimacy and sharing bathroom time with a date. And I just knew from the beginning, I'm like, oh, I need an intimacy coordinator, because I guess my first thought around it before I started working with Brooke was that I wanted to make sure that all the men felt safe on my set and also felt comfortable to engage with me and the room and the camera and everyone else on set in a free way. Mm-hmm. I didn't want them to feel like guarded around me. I wanted them to feel free to play the character. So that's what it initially was about for me, to get an intimacy coordinator. Is I was like, how can I open up the scope for my actors to be able to do what they would like to do for their character?
SAG-AFTRA does not yet require intimacy coordinators on sets. They strongly recommend it, but it's not a requirement. So it is a decision that productions have to make. And it is a financial decision that Jen budgeted for and made a choice to prioritize in this film, which is really important. And so coming to your question of how do you do it once you've got a scene in front of you, the first thing I'm going to do is look at the scene and kind of assess risk. What are the number of participants? What's going on in our location? For example, Are the windows open to the public? Could public just be walking by? How quickly can we close down a set? So, for example, we had a scene in She's Clean that involves an actor running out of the bathroom, a nude actor running out of the bathroom. So one of the things we did was we brought the actor in and we introduced him to each person that would be in the room next to the bathroom. So he knew exactly what to expect, who would be there, who wouldn't be there, everyone else left. So we assess risk, and then I meet with the director and we talk about the story. That's really what it comes down to, is what is the story we're trying to tell? Because as Jen was saying earlier, we would not assume an actor has the experience of this character, or that the way that they, in that one day or 3 hours on set, in that moment, that their initial impulse is exactly going to read the way we want the story to be told. And that's why choreography can be so valuable. Chelsea Pace, who's another intimacy coordinator, always says, passion fades, choreography is forever. And I love that.
I love that.
Yeah, because it's true. What we want to do is say, what's the story we're going to tell? And then put choreography in place that tells that story. So it's not just about, otherwise what would happen is the actor, often what would happen, not always, but often what would happen is the actor that felt most comfortable would initiate.
Right.
But that's not always the true story of the character. So that's part of, just for the storytelling purposes, bringing someone in who helps communicate the choreography can be really helpful.
Absolutely. And it honestly, frankly, it's better for the story, because then you're not looking at, I mean, God, isn't it uncomfortable to like tell somebody, something that came out of your head, like, Jen, this piece came out of your head, you know what I mean? And there's different things you want to explore within the idea. And it's awkward as shit to have to stand there and be like, all right, cool. So this is where you do X and this is where you do this and this kind of thing.
I didn't feel it was awkward at all. I didn't feel awkward at all. And I think too, because I'm not saying that it isn't.
No, yeah.
For some, and this is why intimacy coordinator, like someone there to specifically help, is super awesome. And I've done intimate scenes just as an actor before. And there wasn't an intimacy coordinator or intimacy director hadn't existed before. But so I guess maybe I also felt comfortable because it was me. I wrote it. I know what I wanted, and I'm going to choose the shots. So I guess I'm like, well, I'm fine. I feel comfortable, and I knew, and I Zoomed with every actor before they even met with Brooke. Like, I spent time with everyone. So I felt comfortable, and I felt comfortable with my crew and everybody. So that was okay. And I didn't mind speaking to them because, and I think maybe it's to your point of the experience that you shared with the gentleman on the film that you were working on. I think sort of maybe the difference in that is, and I don't know them, but is the difference between understanding how a film's made as opposed to how a film is then watched. And I think some people think that they're in the entertainment process during the making of it, but that's not true. We make something and then we enjoy it in whatever way that we would like to enjoy it, right? How we would like to view it. So when we're making something, I mean, we're enjoying doing it, but this is a technical process. So if we're bringing in, if we're viewing while something is trying to be made, then like the performers and the crew can't make what needs to be made. So it's understanding and respecting there's a technical process to something. And when it is ready to be viewed and watched and enjoyed, the producers can view and watch and enjoy their film, but it's not during the making process. And that's just sort of what I think in terms of comfortability as a director with that. But Brooke, the thing that then, to your point, that's taking me forever to get to is like, it's more like the language and was really interesting for me to learn. We talk, we don't say butt or ass, we say back of pelvis, front of pelvis. Brooke taught me that. Below the waist, above the waist. There was a wonderful direction that Brooke taught me that was great to talk with the actors about, like, well, what kind of touching is it? And Brooke said there's feather touching, there's painting, and then there's clay. Is that right, Brooke?
That is how we talked about it on set. This comes from theatrical intimacy education also. Light skin contact is like brushing powder off your skin, maybe with a feather. A lower, more muscle level would be like the level of painting on your body. And bone level contact would be like massaging clay. So you can really get down to the nitty gritty of like, what does this moment feel like by talking through what is the level of the touch.
I love that already, because that's already like way more like Laban action. That's way more actor motivated. You can work with this. You know what I mean? There's something to get into rather than be like, think about what you're, having to live in yourself doing this thing.
Totally, Stephen. And when I was introducing that, when Brooke and I had talked, and then I was speaking to actors and I introduced like that to them, they all were like, oh, it like I lit up when Brooke was telling me. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. I can be like, it's like clay. It's like clay, they're touching like this, or it's like, it's just like light. It was so useful. It was great.
A thing you said, Jen, that I think was really valuable too, is one of the reasons you felt comfortable is because you knew all the things and what to expect. And that's a huge part of an intimacy coordinator's job, is to like look at the actors' writers, talk with the director about what's being expected, and then meet with an actor in pre-production to make sure that the actor has all the information. Because usually an actor has like totally opted into this experience, but if they don't know what to expect, that's what's scary. I was cast in a shower scene, my first film in New York, and I was a non-union actor at the time, very young, and I didn't know what to expect. And I remember in advance being like, I was unrepresented at the time, like being like, I don't know, I hope it goes okay. And it totally did. But like not knowing what the shot was, not knowing like how naked will I be in this, that's a huge part of the intimacy coordinator's job, is to get the information from the production and make sure the actors know it in advance so that on the day of shooting, things can move very quickly and efficiently. And then the other thing I would say is an intimacy coordinator can work differently with different directors. Jen felt really comfortable. And one of the ways we blocked was we set up what the boundaries were. We discussed the story of the scene and allowed for the blocking to be, during our blocking rehearsals, to be improvised, then set for shoot. Whereas someone else might want it to be very specifically choreographed. So we were able to talk with the actors and decide what worked best for this production and what worked best for Jen's vision. But it can work differently for different productions.
That's honestly, that's great. I mean, everything we're talking about is process, empathy. And that's frequently what gets removed from this. I mean, and also I liken production. It's the reason it's called production. It is more like industrial equipment than it is. Yeah, than it is like fun hangout. You know what I mean? Like it is not comfortable at all. And there's big, even if you're using the smallest little things, there's uncommon elements to it. There's weird positioning. You do something, walk away for a minimum 15 minutes and come back, and then you got to do it again with a different camera angle. I mean, it just is, all of this is, as an actor, like, cause I've also done, like, I started as an actor and I did intimate scenes in college. Lots of it. I've done, everybody does. Like when you're doing it, everyone's going to do it. And there definitely were times where it feels uncomfortable, even a theatrical environment where you like have this much time. I once did this is a super stupid example, but I was in college doing Oklahoma, and my wife was the dance captain, and I was playing Curly, and one of our best friends was playing Lori. So every night I'm like standing right next to my wife on stage and kissing another woman. Now we're performers. We understand that this is part of the game. So but still, at some point, it would be really nice to have somebody just like come in and kind of take that power, so that you don't have to worry about the actor in the moment, and you can worry about the character in the moment. You know what I mean? It's just so much. I'm really excited about the idea, in case you can't tell.
Yeah.
So let's go back one stage here. When you start choreographing a process, one of the things you've told me about, Brooke, is desexualizing language. So can we start and talk about what that is?
Yeah, I mean, Jen started to hit on it. It's things like front of chest, front of pelvis, back of pelvis. And this is important for a number of reasons. One, because we don't assume body parts. We don't assume identity. So desexualizing it is important for that reason. Also, we also just don't want to make the actual actors sexual objects in this process. The characters are. the characters can be sexualized for sure, but the actors aren't. So if I'm choreographing it, for example, I might say, I'm going to have you close distance from the front of your pelvis to the front of their pelvis on a 1 count. Now I'm going to have you open distance on a 2 count, close on a 1 count, open on a 2 count. And all of a sudden we have thrusting happening without me making it a sexual act. I'm just giving you desexualized choreography that you can like totally like, oh, that's clear. I know how to do that.
That's so like scenes in theater and film, are the actual mechanism and device of developing these things different? Because I assume there's some kind of, they're obviously like people aren't actually having, intercourse when they're filming these things, right? At least I think there have been films that have done that, but that is, so how do you mechanize some of this, and how do you, they're like, I think I'm getting what I'm driving at is, I remember the other day you were talking, you're like, I'm developing these things for this, or like coverings or whatever. And it's just such an interesting job. Like how do you do that?
Yeah. I mean, yes, you absolutely don't actually have sex in theater or film. That's the delineation between film and porn. And I'm a porn positive person, but that's the delineation, right? SAG-AFTRA does not allow for actual sex. So yeah, we used a bunch of modesty garments in this film. We had a lot of fun with them, actually. Jen's mom made a bunch for us, which was really cool.
This is our first public, like my mother, who's a seamstress, made them. Which was and now that it's been filmed, but my mom made with what like Brooke had shared. There's these companies, but they're overseas, and anyway, my mother, who's a seamstress, took that and she's very creative, and she's wanted to support, she's down, and she did a great job. She made a whole bunch of them for us to have options.
That's amazing.
And then we had an additional scene where Jen had simulated sex. Jen's character had simulated sex in a bathtub with a man. Mm-hmm. And so we needed to make waterproof barriers for that. So we took a pair of shorts that Jen's mom made. We put a silicone cup in the shorts, and then I put Segaderm inside the silicone cup to waterproof it. And then we made a Segaderm barrier for Jen that we applied with additionally K-tape to cover her front of pelvis and lower pelvis, to make sure that like we aren't exchanging fluids in the bathtub.
Amazing.
And that was clear. Yeah.
That's a really interesting like issue that I'd not even like thought of. So like then that's, I think it reminds me of stunt coordinators again, and they pull out their bag of goodies, and they have little pads and all different shapes, and they're like, okay, where's the camera? I'm going to get something in here. And they always like find a way. And it's crazy.
Totally.
So how do you approach, like, and I guess that starts with talking about what the choreography is and trying to figure it out. And then is it just kind of DIY experimentation of how these could work?
Go ahead, Brooke. Go ahead.
I think it really does depend on the process. The needs are going to be very different between, for example, I was messaging with another intimacy coordinator recently who's working with very young actors over 18, but like experiencing their very first kiss on screen. That's going to be a very different experience than potentially working with Jen and a bunch of actors who had even worked together or knew each other. If I'm working with someone that they're doing this for the first time, first of all, I should say I never assume experience. So I don't want to say that because someone is older or more experienced actor, they have experience. And if someone has disclosed to me, I've never done this before, I am nervous, then I'm going to choreograph it very specifically. I'm going to talk to the director. What is this storytelling? Who initiates? What's the power dynamic? What's the mood of the piece? And then I will very specifically tell the actors, okay, you're going to initiate. It's going to be a 1 count closed mouth kiss, and the other actor is going to open distance or pull away. And it's going to be that specific. With a group of actors, I'm also not the storytelling police there. right? So if there are actors that want to find it organically, which is much more about what happened with She's Clean, what we do is just establish the boundaries that each actor has. We did that in advance, pre-production, checked in on the day. And then with those boundaries and the idea of the story, the actors kind of organically found the space. We said, okay, yep, that's the thing that looks good. Let's keep that. Let's keep that. Let's move that a little bit this way. That looks good. Great. Now we've got it.
And yeah, and I felt also too with this film, I felt, because they're all these, I felt very specific about, I had a lot of shots that my shots were also revolved around the intimacy, because it is around. So I had a lot of specific shots. I mean, they were all specific shots. Yeah. Some, you know, there was certain close-ups, there were certain wides where I needed to grab some type of energy or some touch, or so we were specific in what the shots were. Yes. And then what we did in those shots, we had an objective that needed to get accomplished. And then we talked about, you know, like the painting feather clay, and then we approach, and there were some, you know, there's maneuvering in a shower or a tub is also like where the camera is. Okay, well, then if I need to end up turning around to get the thing for the next beat to work, then my back needs to be towards you. And then I need to, like, there was a lot of just space that then also made it more specific of what we could do. And then there were other times where a lot of times the actual kissing, the type, the touching, we improv'd what that would be around what the shot needed to get.
And what I will say is different directors work different ways. Jen had a really clear idea of what she wanted and felt comfortable choreographing it. So I was there mostly in advance to make sure the actors knew what to expect. And then in the moment, Jen occasionally would say, Brooke, do you have a thought here? Whereas another director might ask me to come in and choreograph the whole thing. So I can work differently within the needs of a project. I'm there to support the project.
Yeah, of course. And that makes complete sense. And that sounds, honestly, very, very like process oriented. And that's going to be a way better experience. So you also work theatrically. So how does it work? Like, you know, because I'm thinking of things like, you know, Spring Awakening or Hair, you know, where there's a lot of cast and there's a lot of different, Take Me Out, you know what I mean? Where there's a lot of group, not necessarily, you know, sexual in nature, but it is a lot of things that people might just be uncomfortable with.
Yeah. I mean, you did bring up earlier that with theater, we have a little more luxury of time, which is nice. But I think in both theater and film, the first thing is you want to be upfront from the beginning when you're casting. What are the requirements of this project? So you can opt in. For She's Clean, for example, they made sure to have my name associated with the casting call so that the actors auditioning knew an intimacy coordinator would be involved.
That's smart.
And that's the same. Yep, that's the same for theater. The actors should know from the beginning what are the requirements of the show, so they can choose to be a part of it. And then once we're in it, I go through with each actor at each rehearsal a boundary setting process, because boundaries can shift from day to day. And then, you know, in an example like Hair that you gave, where there are moments of nudity on stage, we don't just check in with the actors who are asking to be nude or asked to be nude. We also check in with anyone else that's involved in that scene or observing the scene. Your spotlight operator, everyone should have the opportunity to consent. Sometimes I think we think, or have in the past thought, oh, just the person who has to do it is the one we should care is feeling comfortable and safe. But actually everyone should have the opportunity to consent.
Yeah, and on that point too, Brooke, like when we talked about it too, every crew member that I brought on, I said, you know, this, you know, here's the script, you know, and I'm, you know, it is set in a bathroom. There's a fair amount of nudity and intimacy. Like, if you're comfortable with that, you know, I'd love to also have a quick Zoom meeting with you because of the level of intimacy that's required. For myself, I wanted to meet all the crew members that I didn't already know. And so that was like super helpful. And, you know, some of them said, thank you. Like, I never like, we also have, just to your point, Brooke, we have to think of like everyone that's working on the film. Are they okay with what, they might not be, or they might not be able to be there one day, it's all about consent.
I think that's a
And here's
great
the
point.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was just going to say, here's the thing is, if you are given the opportunity to consent, chances are you will, if it's something you're okay with. It's when you're not given the opportunity that harm is caused.
Yeah.
Even if it's a thing you might have consented to given the chance, when your choice is taken away, that is when the problem exists.
And I didn't even think of that, Brooke, too. But even when then I, all the actors, like with the casting director, Andrew Pham, who cast High Maintenance, who I met through that show, we had Brooke attached with each offer. And so they knew right away, they read the script and they wanted to do with it. We talked, and then I talked about, okay, here's what I'm looking for this scene. These are the shots that I would like to get, let's talk about your comfortability. Are you okay with this? Are you okay with that? And then, are you okay with this type of intimacy, or that type of intimacy? And then I said, great. And so then for anyone, I said, and on the day, if you change your mind, that is okay. And for just because I wanted to, which is, I guess, I thought to myself, okay, that could actually be kind of problematic. Like I am trying to like make this film, and like I also did not want to make a film where we only saw the woman naked. Like that's not the film I wanted to make. So could it possibly, work against me in any way, shape, or form? But I had, if that did come up, if for some reason an actor did not want to do that, I had options. And there was also an option of body double for my film. So I just didn't leave myself an option for me to not get the shots that I wanted. And everyone then felt, they came in knowing that like, oh, okay. I mean, I'm pretending to be one of them, like, oh, okay, like I said that I would show my back of pelvis. Okay, I'm a little nervous about it. I don't know. Well, it was very clear and set up to me that I could speak with Brooke on the day and that there would be no problem with shooting above the waist. And that was true.
That's amazing. I mean, I think that's a great point. Also, what you made there, Brooke, about like making sure everyone else's comfort level, because I think, again, a lot of this just comes from a lack of understanding of communication, but like it's a closed set. Who needs to be in here? Who's supposed to be in here? And not in like, not necessarily in a way of like, all right, now everybody get the fuck out, but it's like, no, here's the plan. You know what I mean? Like, here's what we need to do our jobs. Here's what needs to happen. And just everybody, you okay with that? And if you're not, that have an opportunity to redirect and rework around it. I think it's very, I'd never even thought about like the spotlight operator. You know what I mean? Like it might be something, that they're not completely comfortable with. That's very interesting. Mm-hmm. So far, we've been kind of talking, I think you've been talking about it, in all stages, but I've been mostly thinking about this in like the romantic comedy sense, like, scenes that are like, you know what I mean? Oh, okay, great. Two consenting people doing something together. But there's a lot of, vicious scenes that exist and happen and things. Is there a different approach, or is it the same approach for everything?
That's such a great question. The sort of short answer is it's a very similar approach. Depending on how vicious it is, though, you might need a stunt person, a fight person.
Right, of course. Yeah. So how would that, I mean, I guess it's just always a little bit of it's always different each time, I'm probably going to guess, but like there's a little give and take between the stunt coordinator and the intimacy coordinator.
Yeah. There are intimacy coordinators who are also stunt coordinators. So they might be hired for both jobs and paid for both jobs. However, I have worked theatrically with fight directors a lot, and it can be really fun because it's this excitement of like this added to people telling the story together, and kind of starting with, okay, what's the story? A lot of times fight folks I have found want to get the choreography and then layer the emotion and the story on top of it. And that works really well for me as well. And especially if there's any actual physical danger, I think that's really important to be like, okay, we're not, as Jen said very eloquently at the very beginning, we're not going to just go like ask you to go punch someone, right? We're going to like really beat that out. And then we're going to layer on, I might layer on the caresses or the eye contact or the breath or the vocalization. But yeah, it's really important to think about it if there is any kind of violence attached, that there needs to be a violence designer.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I think that goes without saying. I mean, but SAG would probably dictate you have to have
Yes.
and equity, I assume, would as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. So what do you think is the journey for the intimacy coordinator? You said so far that they're not required by SAG, but it feels like it's something that is very much needed. I'm thinking about larger shows, even like, every HBO show, like, you know what I mean? Like, aren't there stories of like, Game of Thrones even had like a lot of like kind of uncomfortable situations and things that happen, things that where the money and the budget isn't an issue,
Yeah. HBO does have requires an intimacy coordinator on every show now. Alicia Rodas is the HBO. I know that other people work on HBO, but I think Alicia Rodas kind of heads their intimacy department. Yeah, I do think we're moving in a direction where it will become a requirement. That's my gut feeling. Right now, it's a strong recommendation. But if you go on the SAG-AFTRA website, they have standards and protocols for the use of intimacy coordinators, recommendations. They have a quick guide for scenes involving nudity and simulated sex. They're beginning to be resources. And I think that is really the first step, is having resources and the recommendations. And then it really does a little bit depend on producers valuing the art of it, the storytelling of it, and then also the taking care of actors and crew, taking care of everyone.
You want somebody to be able to work, tomorrow and the next day, especially in like theater, you do this 8 times a week, you know what I mean? Like, and you could do
Absolutely.
it twice a day. And that's brutal. Like,
Absolutely.
And especially like in film, I think it happens more in film probably than theater. You see, a lot of method actors, and that is not, everyone's process is their own thing. Have you ever encountered anyone that it was difficult to get the process to unify? And how would you approach someone like that?
Yeah, I have worked with actors where one actor is very method and the other one isn't. And honestly, I bring it down to talking about boundaries. Mm-hmm. So what does your process involve, and how does it affect your scene partner? If your method process involves harming your scene partner, you don't get to be method in those moments.
Thank you so much. And can I make a point on that? Just as an actor, I often find, I'm not a method actor. I often find, I see its value, like, of course, and worked with it at Boston University at school. But there's a lot of misnomer, like there's a lot of butchering of that, and a lot of leeway that I think some people can take. This is not just actors, but also directors and other people who wish to capture something in a real way. And in my opinion, you don't want to act, which that's the job. So please act. Mm-hmm. But I always say there's always the option to act, to actually do your job. But I think to be a little bit more professional about my thoughts on this, as Brooke was saying, like, I do find that sometimes what can be problematic with method acting is that we lean all the way to, well, their method, so we need to go with that.
So there's like a permission, an assumption.
The method actor doesn't have to deal with how everybody else likes to work, or director, or whatever, film cinematographer, like, they would rather, just do their way. And that's where I think sometimes method can become very problematic, because it's too singular and we go, well, their method. And it's like, no.
Yeah,
not a blank check.
Yeah, and I think that honestly is kind of an industry-wide thing that just needs to be accepted, because many times the people that are those method people are also the star, you know what I mean, or like kind of a bigger deal, and so it's kind of they kind of get their way. I am a full-on believer in like the Boleslavsky techniques, you know what I mean? Like, I am a rehearse, and I've worked with actors that are like, they are like, I don't want to over rehearse it. To me,
fair.
I don't I understand the idea, but I'm going to say the opposite. I was like, I've never understood that as an actor. I was like, you mean I want to do it as many times as I can before I have to do it. And because I'm going to constantly find something new and constantly tweak it and constantly work it. And so anyway, I'm fully in agreement with you.
I love it, but this is the point, right? Like, right. I don't necessarily like to overwork something for camera, especially, but like, but there's such a but this is like the whole point, right? Is that like different people have different methods, and if we don't know how to be in an industry where we can incorporate other people's methods, then we're not collaborators, and we should just go act at home in front of our bathroom mirror. That's my opinion.
I do think a thing that you brought up, Stephen, though, that's really important is the idea that when you said like is sometimes a star, one of the jobs as the intimacy coordinator is to be the person without power on set and to advocate, right? Because often the actor, you know, who might be coming in as the guest star, for example, playing opposite that lead actor, should be able to voice their boundaries just as validly as that lead actor. And so part of it is about dismantling power structures in the film industry for the purposes of creating consent, space for consent.
Jen, She's Clean. When is it coming out, or is it already out, and where can people find it?
Oh no, we just started editing. We just finished it a couple of weeks ago. My hope is I'm going to start putting it, I would like it to premiere at some film festivals. I'd like to do the film festival circuit. So
we'll have to touch base whenever you get to the film festival circuit and see how things are going.
Right? Yeah. I mean, like literally we just started an Instagram of She's Clean the Film. So we can follow it all on there, but yeah.
And is that where they would find, you want people to follow you as well?
Yeah. I think at She's Clean the Film will be a nice like overall sounding board for what's going to happen. Right now, not much, but the footage looks good, and I'm excited about it. So hopefully then.
And Brooke, like, where should people, if they want to talk to you more about being a coordinator for their film, where they come find you?
Yeah, my Instagram is at Brooke M. Haney, and that's also my website, brookemhaney.com.
All right. Thank you guys very much for taking the time and joining me here. Really, I feel like I've learned a lot, and I feel like it's just the beginning of learning a lot more.
Thanks, Steve. This was really fun.
It was great. It was great to talk to you.
Filmmaking is a collaborative experience, and so is this podcast. Please take a second to subscribe so you know about future episodes, and leave a review. It really does help us. For more info about today's guest, please visit independentfilmmakersguide.com, where you can check out all our episodes that run the gamut of filmmaking topics.
Hey friends, we just wanted to take a quick moment to talk about two personal things. First, we wanted to thank you, our listening community, and our wonderful guests, learning so much together along the way and continuing to learn, sharing our stories, making a lot of new friends, and collaborating, which is exactly what this is all about. Which also brings me to my second point. In great part to many of these new relationships, we wanted to let you know that we've taken a lot of this advice ourselves and made our own narrative feature film, Herd, H-E-R-D, Herd, which is premiering this October on Friday the 13th in select theaters as well as on VOD. Personally, I think it's the perfect kind of scary movie to watch during our favorite scary season. So we'd love for you to celebrate with us and watch Herd. You can pre-order it on Apple TV, and of course, do the communal thing, see it in theaters. Of course, for all of this, please see our show notes, but basically, we're going to keep it all updated at herd.film. That's herd.film, herd.film as well. Thank you again, and be sure to give us a rating and a review over on Apple Podcasts so we can continue to build this community and collaborate. IFG, how movies get made.